Here we have something very interesting. It's the Domino from UDO or UDO, and it's an 8-voice hybrid polysynth featuring 2 independent synth engines with an interface inspired by the classic Oberheim 2-voice SEM. And it really is a very, very sexy looking thing, this. The build quality is beyond reproach. Everything looks and feels absolutely top notch, especially the screen. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but as soon as I turned it on, I noticed that it's not an LED, but it's got this warm, almost analog quality. And it turns out it's not an LED, it's an electroluminescent vacuum fluorescent display. VFD, the same thing used in VCRs back in the 80s and on Ensoniq and Oberheim synths apparently. And it turns out they developed the existing tech to use it in here. And I'm mentioning all that because I think it shows the dedication and level of detail UDO are willing to go to produce these things. People requested displays on the Supers, which famously don't have any, and UDO have gone way beyond expectations with this. Sonically then, we have similar FPGA oscillators as used on the Supers with analog wave shapes, 32 digital waveforms. We've still got the Superstore style Detune and low frequency modes, plus we can set it up in a binaural mode, just like we can on the Supers. We do lose the sub, but the filter section is so much more flexible with 1, 2 and 4 pole, low pass, band pass, high pass, all pass and phase shifting options, and you can set it up in stereo, parallel or series. So it is a completely different prospect to the Supers, but sits within the same family. And before I start looking at it in more detail, I thought I'd play you this little demo I made using a single performance, 2 tones, one playing a slow 2-note arp for the bass and the other playing 16ths, just to give you an idea of what you can do with it. So sit back and enjoy. I'll start by running through the interface then, show you what we've got on the front panel. Over on the right here, you can see the two main synths, Domino 1 and Domino 2, independent controls, almost identical. There is a slight difference in this one. Can take an external signal, and number 2 can take in number 1 as an external signal. But other than that, they're identical, and they do look like an SEM. But don't be fooled by that, because it's a lot more complex than an SEM, and I'll run through all that in a second. Then over here, we've got the lovely screen, and we select the menu that we want to go in using these buttons here. The menus aren't very deep. Everything's within a click away. So in the voice, you've got poly modes, envelope 3. So like I was saying, it's more complex than it looks from the front panels. For example, these on the SEM are the S envelopes, but we do have release phase there, and we've got a hold phase there. Everything that we see in brackets, we access via the shift. There's an independent release. There's the hold. And if you notice next to the display there, there's a little sort of pointer, and that's where the patch has been saved. So if we wiggle any of these, it'll show you where the patch has been saved. I'm going back into that voice anyway. If we go to the next, we've got LFO 2, so that's the LFO 2 down here, and we've got different wave shapes for that, I think. Again, that aren't on the front panel. And then we've got voice variation modes. I'm really showing you a lot of the stuff that's to do with the oscillators here, but I'm just trying to show you straight away that it is different to an SEM. And then we've got a randomizer as well, which is really cool, and an envelope follower for the input external signal. And in this mode, or in there, you may have noticed envelope 3, as I say. It's got more than the front panel shows. Something else it does over the SEM is these aren't selection switches. We're not selecting envelope 1 or LFO 1 or oscillator 2. We can have a bit of each on them. We can modulate with the envelope and the LFO, and the oscillator, so we can access them there, or we can use the switch. Again, it's a really super easy interface to use. Nothing is hidden or too far away. We access all the main global parameters down here using shift again. So MIDI channel, shift, MIDI transmit and receive. So yeah, everything's really easy to find. Over here, we've got the mixer section. So we've got effect sends, we've got a pan, and we've got a level. Independent levels for Domino 1 and Domino 2. But looking at the effects, we do have send effects, and those send effects are a delay and a reverb. We've got a couple of pages of settings for those, but we also have a drive circuit, plus a chorus, again, just a few parameters on each of these, and an EQ, and that's pair voice. Although I don't know why I'm tapping the sends, because that's not the send for those, that's the send for the send effects, the reverb and the delay. Down here on the left, we've got our performance controls. So these are the aftertouch controls. Whoops, let's load something else, shall we? I did have something nice loaded before I started messing around with that then. Let's try this. Trying to find one that's got a nice bit of aftertouch on it. What's this? Was it this one? No, I'm trying to find one with an LFO using aftertouch. Let's go to the next bank. So this is how you select the banks: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, up to H2. So you got A to H1 and 2, and up to about, I think it's B2 are filled with presets at the minute. So let's go to B1. Load. Good way of hitting some of the presets. There we go. So yes, I'm modulating those with aftertouch. It's mono aftertouch, it's not poly aftertouch. So let's maybe modulate something. Oh, and now I'm in split mode. Hopefully you get the idea. Let's put it into just standard mode. Let's try another tone while we're doing it. That's nice, isn't it? Beautiful. Yeah, so aftertouch, that's vibrating. Everything else is because one of them's on. Don't know why I'm demonstrating what poly aftertouch is. I'm sure you already know that anyway. Then we've got the ARP and the sequencer. The sequencer hasn't been implemented yet. If we go to the ARP, we don't have a choice like we have a voice or filter or performance or patch or effects or EQ. So yeah, that's not been implemented yet. And down here, we've got the different play modes. So we've got single mode, just plays a single voice. It's playing number 1 at the minute. This is the voice that we've selected that we're playing with. So get its difference, but with these, we've got basically an 8-voice poly. Well, if it wasn't in binaural mode, you would. Let's go to the voice and go to number 1, take binaural off. So now it should be a voice again. Yeah. Binaural mode, you lose half the voices, obviously, because you're splitting it left and right. If we go into dual mode, it plays everything, plays both of them at the same time. So we can still play a chord there because that's 4 voices. That's 4 voices. Different voice modes, poly ups, different voice modes, poly 1, solo, legato, unison. Different types of unison, that's playing a major. So we've got, I should really play these with different tones, but so octave, fifths, then a major. But yeah, back to these modes down here. Split mode, so split left and right, and you just push that down. That's the split point now. 1, then 2, so play oscillator 1, fill it up, and then play oscillator 2. Say oscillator, I mean domino 1, domino 2, layer 1, layer 2. This will go 1, then the other. This is random mode, so it's anyone's guess. 6. And then on this chaos mode, we can have voice randomization as well. If we're coming to here, let's actually put it back onto poly mode for now. And come to the voice randomizer. So it's randomized into fifths, octaves. On with the domino mode, which gives us fifths and octaves and the probability of notes being triggered on domino 2, just I think. And then finally, we've got series mode. And in this mode, this domino 1 goes into domino 2 here. So if we turn everything down, this is now playing the output of this. Wow, sorry. That shouldn't. I have to admit, I've not really played with it that much yet. Whoops. So that's still playing that. But this is playing it as well. Interesting. Beautiful all this, isn't it? Yeah, I shall have to experiment a lot more with that one. Okay, let's start taking a look at the synth itself, and we'll start with the oscillators as normal. Ah, it's beautiful, isn't it? I don't want to initialize it, but I'm going to have to. I have to remember that one. What's that? It's B1, Major Domo. Lovely, that. Okay, to initialize, we've got it down here, so it means it's going to be a shift. It's in square brackets, so shift, initialize. Here we go. Let's put it into single mode. You'll see we're always playing this oscillator, this synth, or this layer, this part. Gets confusing. Okay, let's take any of that off. And there's your sawtooth. Check everything's open. So our main shapes we've got, it's different on oscillator 1 and oscillator 2 as it is on the Super 6, Super 8, Super Gemini. Sine, sawtooth, square, triangle, and that's the pulse. So on this one we can change the pulse width. Goes through 0 both ways. And we go to noise, and then we go to the digital oscillators. There's 32 waveforms you can pick from. If we go into the voice ups, and we go to, where is it? Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5, and wave 6. So what we're on at the minute, we're on wave 6. And there's your 32 waveforms. You can load your own into that. 2048 samples long with a Nyquist filter over 500 Hertz or something like that. So yeah, you can load your own, you can make your own. I have already made my Prophet VS waves for it. So if you want them, you can pick them up on my website or my Patreon. It's like the first thing I do when I get anything with wavetables these days. Not that there's anything wrong with these, it's just a bit of fun. So oscillator 2 is different from oscillator 1 in that, or we turn it up down here, just like you would on an SEM, in that we've got a choice of 3 wavetables. Then we go into low frequency mode. So like the keyboard's off and it acts as a third LFO. We can access that in the mod matrix. So we're going to the mod matrix, slot 1, oscillator 2. So we've got 10 sources and 15 destinations. So just initialize this again quickly. So we've got tuning of each of the oscillators in semitones. Or fine tune. So let's bring the second one in. So fine tune the second one. To fine tune it, hit the knob. Nice, big and fat. Let's put that on a 5th. So add 7 semitones. And detune that 5th so it goes really nasty. Talking of things getting really nasty, we've got voice variations. So we've got voice drift in there, that drifts the envelopes, the filter and the tuning, and then we've got pan on there, but that won't work while we're in binaural mode because the voices are fixed left and right. You can hear that going a bit wonky. Very wonky. Okay. So let's take it out of binaural mode, turn that off and go back into there, and we will vary the panning. We've also got sync. So that's syncing 2 to 1. So then obviously you can modulate that with the envelope, and we do that down here. So we're getting deep into it already. Let's modulate that with the envelope. So we'll use envelope 1 on the pitch. So envelope 1, let's just do, and we'll turn the modulation up. knock that down an octave, or 2 octaves. Yeah, so you can go plus or minus 2 octaves. The modulation ranges on this seem to be massive, don't they? Do you know, I should have mentioned before as well, this keyboard is just lovely to play. It's a really nice feeling keyboard, this. So continue with this little mod section down here. We can modulate with the LFO as well. So let's do that. So I can do it up here like I showed earlier. Do some more with the envelope so we can hear it. So unlike the SEM, you're not selecting between envelope, LFO 1 or cross mod. You can have all 3 of them doing something at the same time. I've selected oscillator 1. So oscillator 1 is being modulated by oscillator 2 here. We're not listening to 2 at all, just 1. And we can access both or oscillator 2, so you could do the same. Oscillator 2 being modulated by oscillator 1. Let's try that, see if they can get modulation both ways. Oh my God, yes. Wow. So you can get really disgusting on this thing as well. So it can go nice and dirty, which led me to make this little demo. Let's have a play with these two mod settings then. I'll just initialize the patch again. And this detune is crazy. So you start off with a simple tone, simple sawtooth. And as you add it, it widens the stereo, detunes it, and as you increase it, it's increasing the levels of detune and the levels on the left and the right. You're spreading it out, basically. And it doesn't just work on like a super saw, you can have a super sine. Or a super square. Or a super triangle. Yeah, super anything. Pretty crazy that. And it works on the digital waves as well. Yeah, he does drop in volume. No reverb on that. Let's stick some on, shall we? Let's go into the effects. And go to reverb. And then make it massive, shall we? Increase the size and drop a bit of the damping off. Brilliant, that, isn't it? Pure horror movie. Okay, let's have a look at this wave modulation next. So let's put it onto a pulse, PWM. We tried it earlier on manual. Let's use the LFO. And what am I doing wrong there? I'm not modulating oscillator 1. Here we go. You'll notice there, I'll show this in a second. Or maybe I'll show you in an hour. We've got an overdrive on both the oscillators. I mentioned it earlier, but this is what it does. So let's go to a sawtooth just to show you this really quickly. You can see that wave shape well changing there as it distorts through overdrive. So that's what was going on with the pulse then. We'll just have it on, well, let's take the modulation off. It's not as obvious, which is why I put it onto the sawtooth. Try a triangle. Square. Again, it's not as obvious with the square. And then side. So it can get much more dirty than the supers, and it feels like a lot more of an experimental synth this. And they are actually modulation destinations as well, so you could modulate them with an LFO or an envelope or whatever, or aftertouch. Very nice. Now let's try modulating one of the digital waves. So let's put wave modulation on again. Let's try it with another wave. Looks a bit like amplitude modulation, doesn't it? Let's try and make a tone with it anyway. Just trying to see how long it takes to make something nice out of something that sounds a bit weird. You would get something nice after a few more seconds. The phase of these LFOs is different in the left and right. I was going to show this later on, but as it's doing it now, I might as well just show you now. Put it onto reset. Got 3 modes on the LFO. We've got free, we've got retrigger, and we've got a single shot, which effectively gives us another envelope, doesn't it? But if we put them onto reset, so we can hear what's happening, then press shift, and then we've got this phase difference between the left and the right. Again, this is something that's imported from the supers. So I have sort of moved over to this modulation section, haven't I? So let's just have a little play with this again. So yeah, the LFO can be free. You can have it once or reset. We've got a few different wave shapes there. We've got all the standard ones, including saddle and hold. Plus we've got the digital wave shapes as well. So let's take shift off. Check what's going on using the voice menu. So LFO 1's wave 1 is using the digital wave metal AG. Let's check that. Nice addition. Then we've got high frequency mode as well. And a high frequency mode that tracks the keyboard. So again, lots of stuff that you might be familiar with if you've ever played any of the supers. Showed a little bit of this earlier, but on the ADS envelopes, they are actually ADSR envelopes, but in fact, they're not here. They're more complex than that, and we've got an HADSR, and this one's an ADSR envelope. So hold, and then the release. If you want to have a separate release to your decay time, you hold shift. Again, we showed this a bit earlier, didn't we? This switch down here on envelope 2 has either on or external. So on's just gated on, so hold. Envelope 3 means you'll use envelope 3. It's normal to use envelope 2, but envelope 3, so if we come into the voice and go to envelope 3, we've got an ADSR on envelope 3, and we've got invert mode and loop mode as well. So it's a bit more like envelope 1. So envelope 3 is a bit more like envelope 1. It's an ADSR, so it doesn't have the hold, but it does have the loop and the inverse. Okay, then let's take a look at the filters. And before we kick off, really, because the filters, there's so much in here, it could be like an hour video on its own, but we've got 4-pole low pass, 2-pole low pass, 1-pole low pass, 3-pole high pass, 2-pole high pass, 1-pole high pass, 4-pole band pass, 2-pole band pass, all pass, phase shifter, 1-pole low pass with a 3-pole high pass. So that's like a skewed band pass and another skewed band pass with a 3-pole low pass and a 1-pole high pass. So on top of that, we've got stereo mode, parallel or series, and we've got 2 resonance types. So let's put it back onto 4-pole low pass. Resonance type 1. We bring the resonance in, we don't lose any bass. It can get really screechy, this, so I'm trying to be really careful with it. Sort of pops up instantly. But if we bring in type 2, you can hear straight away we've lost. Wow, it's a lot. Ouch. Let's bring that down a bit. As you bring that in. So completely different characters on those two. And with all those routing options, you know, you can get lost in this for days on end. So it's difficult to know what to demonstrate on it, to be honest, without trying to go through absolutely everything. Let's keep it in 4-pole low pass, because you know what that's meant to sound like. And then we'll put it into parallel. And then try serial. So when we're in serial mode, our choices are limited to what you can see, these 4-pole phase shifter to a 2-pole low pass and stuff. So yeah, it's, you know, it's crazily experimental, really. Let's try another. Another. And another. And going back to parallel, let's try a few of these. Because we're in parallel, we're not in binaural mode. I'll just show you that. So binaural's off. We can't turn it on. If we put the filter into stereo mode, we can turn the binaural on. And you can hear, or is that just the levels? We've got different. And let's go back into the VCF, put it on type 1. And now we've got this really cool thing, which is the delta cutoff, which is the difference in the cutoff between the left and the right. So if we add a delta to this, we're changing the difference. If you look at that graph, you can see the red is the left and the white is the right, or something like that anyway. So spread them, a bit more resonance, make it more obvious. So when I say there's a lot to explore in here, I'm really not joking. So even though there's a lot to play with on the filter, I'm not going to go into it in massive depth because, as I say, I'll just get completely lost. But hopefully you're getting a good idea of what it sounds like, or what it can sound like. It sounds like a lot of things. It's insane, basically. We do have key tracking on this, so we can do those organ tones, but that's the filter on its own. Type 1, type 2 resonance, so changes the tuning, and then just to overdrive them as well. We've not listened to the effects yet. So shall we initialize it again? So not going to sound brilliant using the initial patch on the effects, but let's have a little play. Let's go to a chorus and let's turn it on. Let's turn this into, in fact, let's turn the chorus off and I'll just make a little pad tone. Something like that. Let's turn the levels down a bit. Let's put that onto a 2-pole, shall we? Where are we there? Yeah, that's quite nice. Let's go back to this chorus then. Let's turn it on. In fact, let's listen to one voice as more like a Juno. Nice, does the trick, doesn't it? Yeah, that works. As if it wasn't going to work. Let's play with the drive as well. I'll take one of those oscillators off and take the chorus off as well, shall we? So back into the drive. Turn it on. So that you got to combine that with your overdrive as well. Dirty. Let's put that onto a square maybe, or a bit of PWM. And turn the drive off. There you go. And then we've got an EQ section in here as well. So we've got 3 bands, low, mid and high. Then we can adjust the levels of each of those. So we've got a high shelf, a low shelf, a bell in the center. You can't adjust the Q on any of these. It's quite basic, but very welcome. Sounds fine. Nice little touch though. And then we come over to the, just turn that top one up again. Oops. Come to the send effects, and we've got a delay and we've got a reverb. I showed these earlier, but let's just have a little play with them. Send on. Put the reverb on full again and add it. And now let's make it massive. Take the damping off. Bit of low cut, bit of free delay, so it sounds like it's in a big room. That works, doesn't it? So let's go now to the delay. The different modes. Where are we? So it doesn't go into mad space echo territory, it keeps it relatively sane. And there is a freeze function as well, which if you've seen the Sonic State review with George Haynes, who made the machine itself, he's got a foot pedal plugged in and using that. I haven't got a foot pedal here, so. I think finally then, we'll take a quick look at the ARP. As I said earlier, the sequencer hasn't been implemented yet. So on the ARP, we've got an ARP for the lower and for the upper, and that long demo I played earlier was doing just that. In fact, if I load that patch, you'll see what I did. So let's go, where was it? I've got to remember where I stored it now. It was in H2. Dual ARP, this is it. So this is in split mode. The ARP's on, put it on hold. I'll wait till it gets to the start of that bar, will it? Yeah. There's the second one. And I don't know, there's something like this, I think. Put on to hold. Yeah, but the ARP's relatively simple. If you've ever used an ARP before, you'll have absolutely no issues with this whatsoever. So we've got up, down, up and down and random. We don't have an as played in there. Range up to 4 octaves, then you've got the divisions there as well. It'd be nice to have it 2/1 and 3/1, so you could have it over 2 bars and 4 bars, because I think with that, the bass was over 2 bars, so I had to reduce it down to like 60 BPM rather than be at 120, something like that. But this is the sort of problem you're going to get. As soon as you've got a screen with menus on it, people will start asking for all sorts of things. But it does give room for improvements and updates, doesn't it? So I think that's all I was going to show. I have to say thank you to anyone who's still watching, because it has been getting light and dark and light and dark. The weather's been absolutely crackers here for the last couple of days, and it's been a bit of a technical challenge just trying to get this on camera and the screen on camera. That's why you haven't seen me for the rest. You lucky people haven't had to see me for the whole of this video so far, because I've had to have the 2 cameras and stuff. Yeah, it's been a bit of a technical challenge to do that. But the synth itself has been nothing but fun. It's a really, really nice bit of kit. I haven't mentioned yet that it's got 2 CV outputs and 2 gate outputs, and also that it's a class compliant USB audio interface. So with your external inputs as well, you could use it as an interface. I have tried it, it does work. It's just, you know, just pops up in Logic as the Domino. So yeah, it's a lovely, lovely synth. It's not completely finished yet. I did show that the sequencer isn't there. It's not on the main menu there. And there are a couple of other little bits that I've been trying to suss out. I couldn't find sync for the LFO. I think it says it in the manual. I can't remember now. Oh, and the manual is great. It's a nice, proper, like old school, really thick, really good manual. And to me, those little things really do make a difference. You know, they've spent time on the screen giving you a manual so you can sit and browse the manual without having to have a screen in front of you. You know, it's a really good nice feeling bit of kit. And the sides here as well, they look like they might be plastic, but they're not, they're actually wood. My mate's a joiner and he was round and he was going, that's not wood. And then he had a little feel underneath and he could, for some reason, somehow we could tell it was wood. But yeah, it's a really quality, nice bit of kit. The keyboard feels great, all knob sliders, everything just feels like it's a, you know, top of the range synth, which of course it is. But playing it, it's a bit of a weird thing because it feels like a polysynth, or you think of it as a polysynth, but once you start interacting with it, you don't interact with it like you would with a polysynth and make a nice standard tone, for example. You interact with it more like it's a monosynth. You play around with the knobs. Maybe it's this interface, maybe it's having two little SEM-style interfaces on there, just encourages you to play, and having these different play modes here. And having these different play modes here, especially things like the rotate, which you don't tend to get on other synths with layers. You have like a nice tone or a split, but playing around the interaction between the layers with those arpeggios, for example, I was playing in a couple of those demos. It's just really interactive. It's really fun to play. And there's an awful lot in here, but it's not hard to find. Everything's just a click or twist away from one of those main menus, and you don't have to use those menus. I think I might make a patch bank of it of SEM-style tones, you know, because you've got the variation in there and you've got these two anyway. So I think you'll be able to do something like a, you know, like an 8-voice Oberheim. Not quite as good as that, obviously, because you haven't got 8 individual voices, but to get that sloppiness and to get that feel, it might be quite interesting to do that. So I will have a little play. So I hope that was of some use to somebody somewhere. I know people have been waiting for a demo of this since it was first demoed in Mackin and Bristronica back in September 24. So hopefully that's given you a good overview of what it is and what it can do. So thank you very much for staying to the very end. Do check out my Starsky Car website, check my Patreon. I already have got the Pro VS, the Prophet VS waves for this ready, and that sounds like another video in the making, doesn't it? You've got 4 oscillators, you've got 4 different waves, so I'm going to have a little play with that as well. But yeah, check out that at Patreon or on starskycar.com. As I always say, it's nice if people buy bits and bobs, even some of the cheaper bits, because it does all help to support the channel. So thanks for staying to the very end, as I say, and I will see you next time.